I got started out kind of normal corporate career. I went through Ohio State for engineering and moved up here. Kind of in the 9 to 5 rat race. Just your average Joe, kind of getting along. What appealed to me, I ended up getting my real estate license in 2016 because I wanted to buy my own properties. I've got this credit card debt of 20 grand. I'm paying $200-300 in interest per month, just having a hard time keeping up. And I'm just going to say it. I was broke, and what other way to have a sure path to financial freedom than real estate? And stocks and crypto. There are all these intangible assets that are really something that you don't control. And I was thinking, what's the one thing that I can actually control myself and start buying and have a clear line to where I want to be? And real estate is really the only answer that I could find. So, getting licensed in 2016, zero money, still working the corporate job. And I am big in the Bigger Pockets community. I learned everything there, listened to podcasts in my car like as a university. I don't think I've listened to music in my car for years. But just took it all in. Ended up buying a duplex with an FHA loan in 2016. Since that point, I've been able to get into double digits as far as my door count. Just going slowly and methodical, starting out with nothing, doing the 3.5% down. And for all of us in here, this opportunity to go to get an FHA from a 1 to a 4 unit property is up there for everyone. If you're putting 3.5% down and can move into the property for a year, you could pay yourself a 3% commission on that and get into a property for basically free. I just bought a 4 unit last year where I did the FHA, and the FHA you can use more than once. You don't have one at a time, but a lot of people don't realize you can actually use it again and again as long as you refinance out. So I used it on a duplex to get started in 2018, but then last year I used it again. And if you structure things right, this 4 units that I purchased, 3.5% down, paid myself a 3% commission, structured it where they paid closing costs. The rents come back as a proration, the security deposits come back as a credit at closing. I was actually paid to buy a 4 unit property that was about $300,000, and that puts about $2,000 in my pocket every month. Now, if you can sacrifice for a year and do this, and you can do it a couple times and delay gratification, it's something that's just an amazing power that we have that very few people harness. So I'll talk more about the details as we go on to different questions, but that's kind of my start, my story. Difference. So when I'm looking at property for myself, I'm trying to look at a property that's not going to have a lot of capital expenditures that are going to creep up in the first few years. So looking for properties that are 1980 and newer. You're avoiding your lead-based paint. You're avoiding your knobby tube wiring. Your clay pipes that are going to have roots coming through. So when I'm looking at something for myself, I'm always trying to buy a property that I know is ready to go and not going to have many problems. And it's not really that difficult to manage your own property if you set it up properly. So, buying a new property is going to have problems. Vetting the tenants and doing everything properly with your screening. I use TransUnion, My Smart Move, in order to do background checks. I make sure that I have my criteria in line for when I'm having people apply to live there. And so I do not manage for other people because that's a whole different job in itself. But as far as my own properties go, having good contractors that you can call is very paramount. Excuse me, very paramount. I had a garage door that went out on my duplex that I had to have replaced. Excuse me. And I timed my conversation with my garage door contractor and the text that I sent back and forth in the pictures. It took me 2 minutes and 20 seconds in order to completely have a garage door changed, pay him everything, get the picture sent to me, and I didn't even have to go over there. So if you have proper people in place that you can rely upon, it makes it a lot easier. Now you're going to be recommending property managers to your investors. You just want to make sure to give them a few names, because I don't want to be responsible for someone else's performance that's not really in my hands. If I recommend a property manager to an investor and they do a horrible job, it's one of those things that you want to remove yourself from, unless you are specifically in charge and you know that you'll do a great job. So you just kind of have to be careful on that front. But as far as your own property, I always account for property management. 8 to 10% when I'm doing the analysis if I'm going to buy or not. Because if you don't, you're just buying yourself a job. You know, I do self-management, that's just a little bit of icing on top of the cake when I'm looking at my cash flow numbers at the end of the day. Big on there, you can actually go on there and create a profile as an agent, and for $100 a month, you can be visible to these investors throughout the country. It's a blessing and a curse because your inbox is going to get blown up if you say, "Oh, I'm from Cleveland." You know, you get a lot of people looking on there. "Oh, I can buy this $40,000 duplex in East Cleveland, and the rents are $800 a piece. Great, you know, it's going to be a great return." No, that's not it. You know, a lot of people are deceived by, you know, they think, "Oh, the rent minus the PITI, that's my cash flow, great." No, not at all. You got, you know, you have to account for, you know, 8% for vacancy, 8% for property management. You've got capital expenditures, all these things that you want to account for. So working with new investors, you kind of have to coach them through this and explain things. And, you know, this is not your cash flow. This is going to be your cash flow. You know, depending on what you put down, this is going to be your rate of return. So a lot of people, you know, there's no room for naivety when making calculations and guiding investors through this. So on Bigger Pockets, I ended up putting, you know, a caveat in my profile. Please, if you would like to speak with me, send me your pre-approval, give me your experience, we'll set up a call. I've learned to kind of weed through that stuff. And then as far as the people, you know, in state, your friends and family, you know, if you have 2,000 Facebook friends, you have 2,000 people that want to invest in real estate. I mean, it's a sexy thing. Everybody keeps an eye on it. They want to do it, but they don't know if it's possible or not. But, you know, if you can go in there, and I post all the time when I'm analyzing a property for myself, I'll put the numbers in there. Hey, this is what this is going to be. This is why I didn't buy it, or this is why I did buy it. And I've got people, you know, friends from across the country saying, "Hey, you know, I appreciate you putting those numbers out there. It's kind of a taboo thing to say how much I'm making on a property that I bought myself. But if you can explain that in a way that makes sense to people, it will resonate, and that hope and confidence that you have will kind of transfer over to them. And, you know, if you just put in there, "Hey, you know, do you want to spend more time with your kids and less time at your 9 to 5? Well, you know, you just struck a chord with a lot of your friends. You know, and if you introduce, "Hey, you can buy a 4-unit FHA, and it'll provide you cash flow for the rest of your life for 1 year of sacrifice by moving into one of the units," you might have a lot more people in your friends and your sphere of influence than you think might be interested. And so if you introduce those ideas, if you just put a post out, say tomorrow, and say, "Hey guys, you know, if you're willing to sacrifice for a year, you know, if you can save $10,000, maybe that might require for 3.5% down payment." I bet you have a lot of people that reach out to you in your messenger that say, "Hey, you know, tell me a little bit more about this." And you know, I just recently had a friend that lives in Florida, and I haven't talked to him since high school. He said, "Hey,